Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jackie Phillips, and I serve as the Senior Coordinator for Student Engagement in the Department of Engagement, Leadership, and Service. We're so excited to have you join us today for the next session of the Student Organization Zoom series. And today we're going to be focusing on fundraising and funding. And we're really excited to have some awesome campus partners join us. Jon Hall from Auxiliary Services, and then Carson Kuck from SGA. But I'm going to hand it over to Taylor Kane, our director, to quickly introduce herself as well.
Thank y'all for taking the time to join us or to view after the fact. We're certainly hopeful that this is helpful to you in your pursuit of being successful a student organization and having the resources that you need to do so. And thank you to Jon and Carson for spending a little bit of time with us today. If there are ever questions as you're viewing this potentially after the fact that we can ever help answer, please feel free to reach out to ELS or to Carson or Jon with specific questions. But thank you again for tuning in, and hopefully we can get all your questions answered today.
And so quickly before I hand it off to Jon, I just wanted to share some of our upcoming sessions of the Zoom series. And so on October 20th, next week, we'll be having a session on running effective meetings. And then we'll be joined by Student Care and Outreach on November 2nd for a session on promoting support and well-being within student organizations. And then at the beginning of November, on November 9th, we'll be having a session on assessing your organization culture. And so as always, we'll record these sessions for y'all to view on YouTube after the fact, but we'd love to also have you join us during those dates. And so the registration links are on this graphic, as well as posted on all of ELS's social media. And so now I'm going to hand it off to Jon Hall, the manager for vending and solicitation, to talk a little bit about the UGA solicitation policy and fundraising policies on campus.
Thank you, Jackie. I appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join us today and learn a little bit about fundraising. The part that I'm concerned with primarily would be enforcement of the solicitation policy. Many of you are not familiar with that policy because it doesn't come up very often in your daily lives. I guarantee you signed it when you became a student at the University of Georgia, but let me just talk a little bit about it. Quickly, an overview. The solicitation policy is in place to make sure that the campus remains a place of education rather than commerce. The Board of Regents wants this campus to be thought of as an academic space, not a third world bazaar or anything like that. So you will see that compared to most campuses, the UGA campus has minimal commercial messages as you go throughout your day. The other opportunity that they try and get out of the solicitation policy is that they want to make sure that there's no implied favoritism of one commercial entity over another by the university. You know, as a state institution, it's not our place to say, well, we're working with so-and-so, but not so-and-so, because that uses our resources to benefit one private enterprise over another. And that's something that the university does not want to be accused of doing. So as it applies to fundraising in your situation, what we have to be careful about in general is that no commercial entity is being promoted or otherwise used as part of what you're doing to make money. And it sounds simple, but it gets pretty complicated. Actually, there's a lot of things. I think every year we have something new that we had not seen before come up. So we have to kind of re-examine how this relates to what you're doing. But in general, for fundraising, a legitimate fundraiser for a student organization is going to be something that benefits either the organization itself or a registered, legitimate nonprofit entity. So if you're doing a fundraiser to make money to further support your mission as an organization, that's perfect. If you're doing one to support a legitimate third-party charity, Cancer Society, Heart Association, anybody who's a registered nonprofit entity is fine. The problem you get into is where you're doing something in partnership with a commercial entity, and then it gets really difficult to do something like that on campus. You're welcome to partner with whoever you like as far as commercial entities, but they can't be promoted on campus, nor can they be promoted through any campus resource like a campus server, meaning a u.edu email address. So, for example, if you want to do one of those partnership nights with, say, Chick-fil-A, where anybody who goes on X night they give 10% back to your organization. That's fine, but you can't promote that on campus. You can't put up flyers. You can't have a tabling event where you promote that event. You're allowed to do it, but it can't be anything that you talk about on campus, which obviously defeats a lot of the purpose. Another situation you might see is where you're approached by a commercial entity, Kind Bars, for example, has done this in the past, where they will say, hey, if you reserve a space on the Tate Plaza, we'll come out with our Kind Bars and we'll give away free samples and everybody wins, except you can't do that. That's called fronting, and reserving a space in somebody else's name is not permitted anyway, but especially a commercial entity. They can't be on campus promoting their product, and they certainly can't do it using your status as a student group. So that's certainly problematic. There is a little bit of a loophole when you're doing an event. Say you're doing a 10K run, and you've got several sponsors for this event. If you call them sponsors, you might be able to promote them a little bit on campus. In other words, if you were going to hang up a banner at the end, finish line of your 10K, and it says the so-and-so 10K to benefit the Cancer Society, then in little small print, you can say thank you to Powerade and so-and-so bank or whatever. We can let you do that because what that is doing is that is facilitating a bigger event. The product is not the headline. The event is the headline, and they're simply there to make it happen. That's really the only time you're going to see something like that permitted on campus. There's a lot of other scenarios, and a lot of times we have to kind of go over each of them when somebody proposes doing something and say, okay, you can do this and you can't do that. And I urge you to reach out to the Center for Student Involvement and also to me personally if you have any questions. My email is Jon Hall, that's JONHALL @uga.edu. And you can run scenarios by me and I will either tell you it can't happen, or maybe in some cases I'll tell you, yeah, it can happen, but we have to modify your event a little bit. So that's really a very general overview of the goal of the solicitation policy as it relates to fundraising. And again, there's a lot of nuances to it. We're happy to discuss those, but if you keep those general ideas in mind, you'll be okay. And that's what I got. Thank you, Jackie.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John. I have a few questions that have been sent in to us.
Sure.
Can student organizations hand out samples within like an organization meeting if a company was to donate those?
Yes. However, it has to be in a closed setting. You can't be having a meeting out in the public and say, hey, look, we've got this product. It's not the product, and it's not the fact that the product is being given to the organization. It's that the product could be promoted. So take whatever they'll give you, enjoy a free product. If it's food, great. If it's a whatever, but you can't give them on-campus promotion in exchange for their donation.
And then another question we've received a lot is how has COVID-19 impacted what student organizations are allowed to do with fundraising? And I know on our end, student organizations cannot be selling food that is homemade or prepared by members. It does need to be individually packaged, but are there any other policies or good reminders for student organizations in terms of COVID-19?
Technically, there's been no change to our policy. What has happened on campus has really limited people's opportunity to do their fundraisers. And yes, that certainly the packaged food problem is significant because many people would try and raise funds by bake sales and other food sales. That's not our policy, that's your policy, and it makes perfect sense. But as far as the way we enforce the solicitation policy, no, there's really been no impact directly.
Thanks so much. And I think that's a great reminder for student organizations for all fundraising activities on campus. Please make sure to fill out the form that is on the involvement network, and that will go through our office for approval. And then if there's any questions in terms of solicitation, we always loop John in, and then he's able to provide more guidance and chat through things with different student organizations. And then lastly, John, if a student organization is interested in a sponsorship, like you mentioned, of having a banner or something at the end of a 5K or other case-by-case scenario, is the best way for them to contact you and seek approval just through email?
Absolutely. And I want everyone, Jackie, to know that my job is not to shut you down. My job is to help facilitate a way for your event to happen and keep it within the policy. So I just want everyone to know that we're not, your office and my office are not looking to be bad guys, but there are many cases where we would like to hear what you want to do. and maybe we'll have to tweak what you want to do a little bit to make it fit within the policy, and we'll work something out. So yes, that is absolutely the way to do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll be sure both within the comments and the description on YouTube to include your email for folks on how to contact you, as well as the link to the form for seeking fundraising approval. But thanks so much, Jon. We greatly appreciate you being here today and sharing a little bit more. So
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, Jackie.
Yes. And then I am now going to pass it off to Carson Kuck, the SGA treasurer, to talk a little bit about small clubs allocations, which is one of the different funding opportunities for student organizations on campus. And Carson, I'm going to stop sharing so that you're able to share your screen.
Awesome. Can y'all see that? Okay.
We can see your desktop.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so hey y'all, my name is Carson Kuck. I am a fourth year. I am the student body treasurer. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm super excited to be here to present to y'all today. So Small Clubs Allocations is a committee that I get to chair being treasurer, and it's where student organizations are allowed to come and request money and finances for different programs they're doing, different events, or anything like that. So here's just a really short presentation on it. If you ever have any questions about it, please you can reach me at carson.kuck, and Cook is K-U-C-K at uga.edu. But yeah, so Small Clubs Allocations. This module will focus on the policies and procedures that student organizations must follow in order to request financial assistance through Small Clubs Allocations process. Objectives: better understand the process of requesting financial assistance, understand the policies and procedures for requesting financial assistance, understand general practices for applying for small club allocations. What is small club allocations? The Student Government Association has the ability to allocate funds to registered student organizations on campus who have expressed their need for financial assistance in regards to hosting programs and events and assist in official organization travel. There are strict guidelines that outline several requirements that organizations must follow in order to obtain financial assistance. You can find those guidelines on the SGA website at sga.uga.edu. Policies on requesting funds. Funds are only allocated to registered organizations whose programs will directly benefit or serve a large segment of the student body. Funds may be allocated to registered student organizations for travel to conferences, performances, competitions, and programs pertinent to the student body. All requests must be submitted to SGA at least 4 weeks prior to the event or travel departure date. Late requests will be denied unless circumstances of a particular request are deemed extraordinary by the Small Clubs Allocation Committee. Funds may be used for worthwhile programs of registered student organizations. That is not to include charitable causes, recognition awards, or banquets. No funds shall be used to purchase alcoholic beverages, food, or lodging. No funds shall be used to fund scholarships. If the Small Clubs Allocation Committee approves a funding request, the reimbursements must be claimed within 30 days of the event or travel. The reimbursements are not claimed within the designated time, the fund will be returned to the allocation pool. Application for small club allocations can be found under the Initiatives tab on sga.uga.edu. It can also be found in the Involvement Network under Student Government Association, and you can go under Forms, and it's the 2020 to 2021 Small Club Allocations form. Read the guidelines thoroughly before applying. Failure to adhere to guidelines could result in not being allocated funds. Be specific about what you are requesting funding for in your budget breakdown. Make sure you include any additional funding resources and what they are covering as well. Be sure to click Submit on the final page of the form. After submitting your application, you will receive a communication from SGA Treasurer, so me, to schedule a hearing date where you discuss your budget requests and answer any questions from the committee. If your application is filled out incompletely or does not follow the guidelines, you will have to resubmit your application. The hearings, they sound intense, but I promise they're not. You will arrive to hearing time at least 10 minutes in advance. Since COVID is amongst us, this semester at least, we will be doing Zoom hearings, so you'll get a Zoom link from me. The hearing will only last up to about 10 minutes. Presenters will not be allowed to hand out any additional materials or use a visual aid like a PowerPoint presentation or poster. It is recommended that the presenter speaks no more than 3 to 5 minutes to allow the community to ask questions. If the individual that submitted the form is not able to attend the hearing, be sure the proxy fully understands the request and the guidelines. Helpful reminders. The contact for the SGA treasurer can be found on SGA's website if you have any questions. Registered student organizations are eligible to submit requests from Student Activity Fee Allocation Committee once having applied to the Small Clubs Allocations Committee and or the Student Affairs Diversity Fund for 2 consecutive years. For additional information on other funding opportunities, review the Funding the Fund Management training video under the Resources tab at involvement.uga.edu. And you can find us in the CSAI, no longer CSAI, the ELS, and the second floor Tate. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to answer a question that is routinely asked. Okay, awesome. So one question that is asked all the time and a lot of times is the number one reason why applications get denied is because the money can only be used for a single event. It can't be used for your annual budget to go for reservations for the next 4 months. Like that's not, it has to be for like a single program event, paying a speaker to come at a specific event. That's one question that we get a lot. But yeah, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Again, my email is carson.kuck@uga.edu.
Thanks so much, Carson. I had a few different questions that were sent in the chat and that we've received from students over time. What can they expect at a hearing? Who is there? Who are they going to be speaking to or presenting to?
Yeah, so at the hearings, it consists of 5 students who are members of the Student Government Association. This year, it's me and there's 4 other senators. And then in that Zoom call, you'll also be seeing some faculty members and advisors, but they are pretty much there to just listen. It's mostly just us students who are asking questions.
Awesome. And then you might have mentioned this, but just for clarification, is there a maximum amount of times that a student organization can request from small clubs?
Taylor, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's 1 time a semester. Correct? I don't want to get that wrong. Do not want to get that wrong.
I think Taylor had to step out for just a second, so we'll catch her in just a minute, and we will.
I'm pretty sure it's either once a semester or once a year. Do not quote me on that. I should have that memorized like the back of my hand, but I just don't want to say the wrong answer and then mess somebody up.
No, thank you so much, and we'll make sure we clarify that once we post it too for everyone. And then I think lastly, what are some other events that either you've already seen come in request through or that you've heard of, some different ideas for organizations of what they could come and request from small club allocations?
Yeah, so the Psychology Association, the graduate school, just got allocated some funds for an event they're doing. They're having a speaker come and they're just having like a seminar. But the speaker, since the speaker costs money to come, they're using the money to pay the speaker to come and speak. So things like that. I encourage all y'all that are watching this to apply because this year with Corona, we have had a slow year with small clubs allocations because a lot of people aren't having any in-person events, which is fine, but you can also use that money to bring speakers on Zoom and things like that. So just keep that in the back of your heads, but yes.
Awesome. And then in addition to small club allocations, one other funding source currently for student organizations is the Parents Leadership Council grant. And so information about that was recently released on their website, and we'll make sure we link that in the description as well for folks, and I'll send it in the chat shortly. That's a great way to request funding for different initiatives or events as well. In addition to fundraising, just make sure you adhere to the UGA solicitation policy of doing so. But thank you so much, Jon and Carson, for joining us today and sharing these overviews on both the UGA solicitation policy and small clubs allocation. We're really excited to have this info and to share out with student orgs. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to follow up with us at ELS@UGA.edu or reach out to Jon or Carson directly. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much.